this question, once again, we need to look at the kind of time spectrum which the research or some, I mean, experts are highlighting. And roughly the timeline is around, I mean, 14 to 18 months that we are going to, I mean, continue to face this, I mean, problem of corona until some vaccine or other, I mean, cure is available. So, I mean, keeping in view this, I mean, time in mind, first of all, I think government needs uh, to set certain, I mean, protocols, particularly to induce some behavioral change among the citizens. Otherwise, it would not be possible to manage it, because you can't, I mean, have lockdowns for I mean, prolonged time periods. I mean, even if you are going to open them, then there would be no. Let's see what happens. But generally speaking, there could be, I mean, much more pressure onto the, I mean, hospitals and your health system. And as you know that we are not up to that level, even if the America, Italy, and Spain could not handle. So for us, I mean, it would be even much more complicated. So keeping in view that aspect, I think the first focus should be to inculcate certain behavioral, I mean, changes which are required to deal with it, and that would not be possible. And unfortunately, up till now, I've already written an article about it that was published in Business Recorder, that there is no unified, I mean, response, provincial and the federal government. I mean, this kind of this political gimmickry that's going on around this issue is further complicating the issue, because on one side this is very serious issue, but on the other side people are taking it very lightly, and because perhaps they think that it is kind of some politics that's going on between the provinces and and the federal government. Then the second aspect is that once you are doing this, along with it, you need to have a very concrete, I mean, employment policy in which you are not going to give this, I mean, cash transfer every quarter. That would not be possible. As, I mean, Hassan has very appropriately highlighted the kind of fiscal space government has. We cannot afford to have, I mean, very generous, I mean, cash transfers in near future. But on the other side, keeping in view that there would not be, I mean, large scale manufacturing and activity in the country, there would not be, I mean, other, I mean, economic options, particularly for earning the livelihoods. So then it is government who will have to create some livelihood, particularly by initiating some, I mean, mega projects, but labor-intensive mega projects. And might be even you have to stop certain, I mean, public sector investments, public PSDP investments. You have to stop for a while. You must stop them and create certain, I mean, like 100 days employment program for the rural, I mean, youth. That could be, I mean, with the help of this, you can create some, I mean, you know that most of our water infrastructure is downtrodden at the moment. I mean, since, I mean, 30, 40 years, no massive investment has been made in your canal system and your, I mean, rural roads, rural infrastructure is, I mean, in a dilapidated state, and the government can come up with some, I mean, investment in those sectors on a, I mean, quick fix basis, so that you are going to create 100 to 150 days job guaranteed jobs for the youth, uh, and that's not, I mean, very for a very kind of a skilled labor force.
Mm.
Once you are going to do that, it is going to add some, I mean, breathing space for those who are not, I mean, in getting their livelihoods from the existing situation that's going on at the moment. Then besides this, there could be a third strategy that government should seriously consider, and that's reskilling the youth and certain, I mean, I mean, even you could consider beyond youth. I mean, those who are in the age bracket of, 40, 45, and they are now supposed to lose their jobs in from the existing livelihood opportunities. How to, I mean, reskill them and then going to make them, I mean, again, a kind of a viable workforce for getting their livelihoods from the future. I mean, those industries which are now going to be highlighted, like particularly e-commerce, as Hassan Dawood has already highlighted that certain policy was almost. I mean, when we were working for the government, I mean that policy was almost in the final phase. Certain retweaks were required, but I mean, I don't know why this government is taking so much time in finalizing that. Besides this, as Hassan has also highlighted, that only, I mean, incentive are not going to work, particularly to attract the foreign direct investment. There would be cutthroat competition. I strongly agree with Hassan on that aspect. So once there would be cutthroat competition, so what is needed beyond these incentives which we are offering, I mean, since last 5 years, but yet there is no progress, particularly on, I mean, increasing the foreign direct investment in Pakistan. And that is, I feel, strongly feel that this is what is the policy framework of Pakistan. I mean, until and unless you are going to have a very coherent and stable policy framework, it is less likely that any foreign direct investor is simply going to respond to these incentives, particularly these fiscal incentives which we are offering. This is not, these are not going to do any miracle until and unless we are not going to have a very robust policy framework. And as I have written in Dawn, that article was published, that we are, at the moment, we have 26 different federal level policies, which are decade old, most of them. And recently, few of them have been, revamped or reshaped in last 4 or 5 years. And apart from that, most of them are decade old. Eventually, though, those have lost their relevance, and particularly those have lost their relevance in now, I mean, this context which is we are facing now. And two things are very, I mean, clear in this context. And one, thanks to Nahid, she has already highlighted that it is now an era or where once again you have to look at indigenous sources of growth, because neither you can earn with the help of exports, nor you will be able to, I mean, simply export your labor force to the MENA region or to, I mean, other developed worlds, and they are going to give some resilience to your economic system. These two possibilities are, I feel, are, I mean, now over. And only it would be possible that if you are going to have highly skilled labor force that could, I mean, help in digitization of the MENA region and some other, I mean, developing countries like us, they could be able to get absorbed in the global workforce. And beside this, now you have to rely heavily on your domestic, production system, domestic production methodologies and strategies. Only then it would be possible that we are going to have certain kind of breathing space.
Yes.
So, I mean, with these 4 or 5 different aspects, if the government is going to focus on these aspects, only then it would be possible that we can overcome slightly some of the pitfalls and some negative repercussions. Those are over there, and as well as some of the positive repercussions, those are over there, particularly having this, digitization, Internet of Things, and this, 4G, or this fourth industrial revolution, that would be now much more expedited because of this COVID, kind of context. Thanks to COVID, you could say that that is the only, silver lining that is there in this crisis, I feel. And only those countries which are going to respond to this appropriately would be the winners in the next phase. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I think the situation would be much more worse for the countries like us.